wasn't going to pay for
money.
himself.
And so initially I would go anywhere because I was so enthused. And of course, what the lady said, basically she said, don't do it for the money with the shroud. Don't calculate. We ended up getting $1,000 donation, by the way, in St. Mindred's.
Well, that pays for the gas.
But there was nobody there. We didn't even know how that money came in. But I mean, the point is that don't do it for the money because there is no money in it, and also there's a lot of suffering that goes along with this thing. So and a lot of rejection.
Well, if you're doing it for the money, it's going to be insincere.
Yeah.
And that's going to rub off on everything too.
Yeah.
And that's the passion that you have to honor, I guess, as far as these things. Realize what it is you're delivering.
Right.
You're not delivering a newspaper. You're delivering the news.
Yeah,
and here's the definition.
That's right, Larry.
Here's the evidence
serious stuff,
of
right?
why it is that you need to believe that this man's suffering and his sacrifice for us.
Right.
That's
right.
And he wasn't just a normal man.
Absolutely.
And so this is it's a wonderful parade to be in with this, to keep marching this thing, the story, to get out there and try to get out there. And I think every time we tell it, a little more comes out.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard things today
Right.
that you've articulated that you've not before
But
in the storyline. But my memory isn't always that good.
well, but it's the power of discussion and the gift of conversation is to bring these things out, and then to have St. Rita to tell her versions of things.
We got her in today. I know that was one of the things we wanted to do.
Well, I wanted her to, so we can have a comparative note between like the Rome City things that are going on and this. And this is one of the things, when she was talking about the baths, this is one of the things that the doctor expressed to me yesterday. He says, there's no baths there. You've got this gift of the water. And I said, yeah, I built the fountain so that you could take it. He says, that's good. He says, but why aren't there baths down there for people to bathe in? I said, I used to have them.
You used to have them.
I used to keep it clean and all like that down there, so people, I tell you about the time, it was like a Sunday morning. and I remember because I'd gone to Mass and come back, and I come back and I see this van sitting down by the waterfall. And I'm thinking, okay, a little early, for the visitors, but hey, okay. And so I go down there and I see, what do I see? It looked like something out of Woodstock. There looked like 4 hippies down there sitting in this little pond down there. I mean, buck naked.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And they were down there just bathing in this water, and talking about how they're getting healed. And I said, what are you goofballs doing?
Smoking the wrong end
I
of the
said, doesn't
bananas.
anybody have pants around here anymore? And there were 2 ladies were naked.
And
I'm thinking, oh,
where's my camera?
No, please. It wasn't a Kodak moment, okay? It was more of a pencil in the eye kind of thing, poke that mental eye out type of thing. But these people were they were from Chicago, and they had been part of a 12-step program. They're all alcoholics.
Okay.
So they'd been to one of their meetings the night before, or that night, or whatever, and they'd heard about this place in Rome City with these healings. So they got it in their heads that they would just go to Rome City, bathe in these waters, they'd be cured of their alcohol addictions.
That's a smart move.
Well, they were sincere about it. They drove a long way, and it was just something you don't expect to see on a Sunday morning out there.
You never told me that story.
Well,
so were they sitting in the tub of water and stuff?
Well, they were just like splashing around and like playing with each other. I mean, it was a big, it was as big as this room, as far as the pool I had down there at the very bottom. It was all concrete laid, and I'd clean it all out. But they were down in there dipping their wares, as we say, and doing their thing. And apparently very, very comfortable with each other. But they had their piles of clothes. I said, well, I'd appreciate if you folks at least put on some bottoms here, at least, cover up a little bit.
Bring your swim trunks.
I said, I really don't want, this, kind of becoming a normal thing down here. But I appreciate what's going on. They told me their story. And I said, well, I love you, and I hope it all works for you. I said, I don't know what I can do to help you. But they ended up taking them inside, made them coffee, and, got their stories. And but
never come back?
Not that I know of. At least I didn't see him naked anymore. But But there's all sorts of things that you never know what you're going to find
I'll
out
tell you.
any given Sunday or any day. You know, when
Never
somebody's
heard
showing
that
up.
story before.
I never told you about
Never told me about
the four
that.
drunks in
No.
the tub.
No.
I call that four drunks in a tub. You know, but they were all, you know, on their way to hopefully sobriety. They were 12-stepping it. And they were looking for help,
Well, God bless them for even, making
for even
it.
thinking about it.
Right.
And I told him, I said, how did you find out about this? He says, well, we saw something on a blog site about a woman from Chicago had intestinal problems and surgeries and stuff like that. And the water, she thought, cured her.
Okay. Oh.
She was supposed to have these series of surgeries. And I know about that one. That happened in the middle of winter. There was a woman from Chicago getting water for her daughter who was up in the hospital in Chicago. She had problems with her digestive tract,
Wow.
bleeding, ulcers all throughout, and they were going to do this major
Surgery.
major resection, you know,
It's a mess.
bad situation. Well, the mother took the water back for her and had her start drinking the water. Well, they canceled her surgeries. They didn't have to do the surgeries. Her situation healed itself
That
naturally.
quickly?
Well, within a matter of days. But yeah, is what they told me.
Huh.
And they talked about that. Well, these folks saw this on the blog. This mention this lady made.
Let's go.
Said, we got to go.
I'll bet they are healed. I'll bet that they're healed of their...
Well, I hope they don't own a bar, you know, but
Right.
but I hope they're, you know, healed. And that's been, 20 years at least,
My
if not
goodness.
more.
Wow.
So never heard back about that, but
Did you
just
ever
good stuff.
did you ever record all the different things of healings and stuff, or not yet?
Oh, we put them down, and that was all submitted to the bishops and all like that, the different stories. But they'd have called that one, that was just anecdotal. But to me, that's fruits
Sure, it's fruits.
of, here. And they said, we got to go find for ourselves.
That's faith.
You know,
Right.
this is how the early
They
church
believed
started.
it, right?
And this is what I'm saying that we need to carry with us. We have to carry our faith and our wisdom without the benefit of books and a priest to be in. Because if we don't have that, maybe it won't happen in our lifetime, but our children's lifetimes, your children's lifetime, that maybe there's this breakdown in the priest's soul run and hide or whatever that they don't kill
Right.
if this is to happen, which is prophecy. How does the church endure? Well, it's going to have to go back to its roots, how it was in the beginning, where you believed because your sister told you and you saw it in her face, and the belief that you had to at least examine it and then
Right, that's
believe.
right.
That's how the church was built, not by the hundreds of thousands, but by the ones
That's
at
right.
a time.
Correct.
And this is what it'll go back to, but it'll be a very fervent and strong belief. It won't be people saying, I think. It'll be people saying, I know.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's why I
faith,
say,
the
I don't want
faith
you to
of
have
the church.
faith. I want you to have knowledge.
So the Romans, during the time of the persecutions, were converted because the Christians, they would put their spear up to the Christian, and the person that was about to die would counsel them not to worry about what they're about to do to them, and that they forgive them because their faith was so,
They didn't faith. They had knowledge that they were going.
so they were helping them put the thing inside of them. But it's perhaps the church is going to have to go back to that degree of faith and individual one by one.
Well, the church will collapse very, very quickly if put under extreme pressure. And it seems that, the soldiers, the Davids, the King Davids, we need to get back to, not the Solomons.
Yeah, I was thinking about King David.
Well, I do too.
He's the one that, right?
Yeah.
Goliath.
He was the brave one
But
because he came from the earth.
But wasn't he the other one that when he was king, he sent the Hittite
Yeah, well,
because he
he wanted the wife. Well, that was his bad thing. But his son Solomon was like 10 times worse.
Okay, no, I'm just saying. Here's
know-
a guy that's me and God were like this, right? Except Who's that lady?
Yeah, but it was just also part of their culture that was going on to, to take, what you covet and things. There was problems that were going on, and I think that he paid for that dearly.
Did he?
I think he did in time.
Okay.
I mean, heaven didn't forget. Mary certainly didn't forget.
See, but this is what God has to work with.
No. And you look at me like I'm a problem.
No, I'm just saying, God love you. I mean, myself, I'm thinking, time out. I don't want to tell you my sins, run from the stage. But it's this was a good little 4 hours of podcast that we.
Well, but I think we got to carry away from this. We have to have this value of this divine indwelling so strong, or at least have the seed of it there, the event that everything gets pulled away from you, that you can still sustain yourself and have that wherewithal to not yield.
Yeah, absolutely.
To give in to the pressures. And the pressures will be strong, and everyone thinks that they're going to be tough in that moment, but I got to
you got to pray. You got to pray for God.
They'll cave.
Right.
And this is human nature. And God knows that.
If God
please,
God is with
let's
us.
not get to that point.
Right.
And we got to stand up now. We got to take stances now to eliminate this craziness that's going on in our world and our thinking, and this, giving in to things, because we have to be nice, we have to be generous, and we have to turn the other cheek. And I keep hearing that. Well, Jesus said to turn the other cheek. I said, but he didn't say to stand there and get your ass beat.
Absolutely not.
He says you have to defend me. And if it takes your life, then that's the case. But not to continually stand there. You got to say no.
You got to use your brain. And he also turned over the tables when they pissed him off. Threw him out of his father's house.
Yeah, he had his range of motion.
He's got his. That's right.
He said, not this, not now, not ever. But he was correct then, and he's correct now, and we have to stand for something. And if we're not going to stand for defense of the faith,
we stand for nothing.
Like our Father Noel and Bishop Sheen did.
That's just what they did.
Yeah, and if we want to know, what they said, they left us everything we need to follow with them. Sheen did it, so many books and TV shows. Noel did the same thing.
Oh, unbelievable.
I was looking through some of the notes there on the decline of nations. He was spot on.
He saw.
He saw it. He was such a thinker. He saw what was happening. And he said, man will not have the reserves to pull themselves out of this without God.
Right.
Because this is how the collapses of civilizations and great cultures has always been.
Yeah, they go into the dust.
We can't fight our humanity. No matter how intelligent and how smart we think we are, that's our doom.
That's right.
Because that becomes our hubris, to where we think that in spite of, we don't have to listen to that. That doesn't matter. We know. We have the knowledge now. We have the power. We are the science.
The big mistake to think that we, without God, we're nothing. Without Christ, we're nothing. And we're either going to get it or we'll end up in darkness. And that's what echoes through eternity, is our stupidity over and over again. But there's right now we're still in the midst of the promises of Our Lady of America and the promises of St. Joseph to come to our aid, and the promises of Christ. So,
well, we're going to get there with it, and we got to, bring back the power of man and manhood, and respect it. And men have to be responsible with that. They have to be so loving and generous with it that it's in a way that it brings back the inspiration of these early settlers. Imagine a settler coming from Wales or something like that, poor as can be. Just, I can't make it here. I'm going to die, on this place. I've got to try getting on one of these ships to take me to someplace different. Otherwise, I'm going to die here. Mm-hmm. There's no future for me. These guys got on these ships, went abroad, not knowing what was there or what would happen. And then they just kept going, and they ended up on these plains, following the rivers and following up through there. They ended up on these grassy plains, and they said, well, here's where I'll farm, but I have to deal with the Indians, I have to deal with the animals, I have to deal with
heat during the winter, wood.
Survival.
That's right, build a log cabin, the initial
Yeah.
cabin. Then they built something after
Yeah.
that, but I can't imagine how they did it.
You ever watch any of these wilderness shows?
Yes,
And there was this one guy. They said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" He says, "I live for a living."
right.
He says, "That's what I do." That's what the settlers did. Making money wasn't their goal. Having provisions and a meal
Unbelievable.
was their goal.
Where you end up dying.
I live for a living. And I just think that we need to live for our faith, that it can turn to knowledge,
Absolutely.
that we can have this comfort in the knowledge and not the faith. I want your faith to turn to knowledge so that you know
God is
what's
with
coming
us.
at you. God is there. Heaven is real. It's not a made-up story. It is real. And we have to stay with it to get there. And Our Lady of America, like I say, is for everybody, because everybody can have this feeling in their heart, because if and when it all collapses, this is all you got to get by with.
That's right.
And this
And
is going to be your
actually,
only
it's all-
comfort.
Actually, it's all we got now that we don't recognize it. And
Well, it's coming faster and faster.
you know what I mean? We don't recognize that God is what we have to have,
And when
even
I
with our own comforts.
and when I see these naturals come in, like this doctor the other day,
That's interesting. Yeah,
he doesn't know it. I told him, I said, "You're a natural." He goes, "Oh," I said, "No, you don't know what I mean. Your natural instincts drove you here." I said, "This is how you were put together. This is how you were formed. This is what brought you to this point." I said, "Now you're going to go on from that." And he's like, "Man, I'm so inspired." I said, "You've inspired me." He says, "You inspired me." I
Yeah.
said, "That's what it's about."
I hope I get to meet him sometime. In the
Oh, you
future.
will. We're going to be talking with him.
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to bring him in more. We'll talk more about the Knight method of healing and this whole thing, how it all works together with
Yeah.
your spiritual.
Yeah.
And here's a non-Catholic telling me how it all works together. He figured it out.
Wow.
And I'm saying, wow. I said, you need to talk to my audience more. So we'll get a better
Everyone
phone
podcast.
device in here. We can have more conferences with these people.
Okay.
So
Sounds good.
it's coming together. It's like the other day I thought I was completely out of these kind of connections and whatnot.
Sure. Right.
And then here it comes in, and I called St. Rita afterward and said, "You won't believe it." She goes, "What?" She said, "I talked to that doctor." She says, "How did it go?" I said, "It's kind of like being in the mafia. You try to get out and they drag your ass back in.
Yeah,
you
right.
can't ever get out of it."
Same thing with the phone, your little phone alert on that reading in Hebrews.
I know.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. I had the phone turned off, but I went and I looked at it, and here's this thing about.
You can't find it again, can you?
Well, I'll dig it up. The guy's name is Spurgeon, but
See, he's got a good mind. He's got a great mind because he read that once, and he can retain it. And
no, it was totally.
I would read it, and it'd be like, out of my mind almost.
The only thing I could think of is maybe there was something that was going on with Google. Some sort of audio thing picked up something and did a search on its own.
No, but
It was off.
The stuff we were talking about, you said it is directly related to what you were reading.
Yeah, but my phone was off, and then I turned it on,
Miracle.
and then here's
Right. There's
it
the
comes
guy,
up
right?
rather than a homepage. I'm getting this search.
Yeah. Do more,
Kid you not, folks. It's nutty.
do more research on that for the next
Oh,
time.
I will, because it fit right in.
Yeah, be
We can't do enough to get forgiveness for ourselves. Jesus did it already. We can't live to that amount, and that's what they were trying to say. And that goes so much with like these other like side devotions and things like that people get kind of distracted by.
Absolutely. I hear you, Larry.
And I think it goes with that, because it's like the dartboard with the bullseye on it. You got to keep shooting for the bullseye. Don't go for these triples out here and these things that are outside that take you off the bullseye. Stay on the bullseye.
Yeah.
All you need is the bullseye. The other stuff is all superfluous, and it just adds confusion
Right.
and takes you off of more time on the bullseye.
But what we can do in the instruction of Our Lady of America is to invite God into us.
Right. We
That's
become
the
the bullseye. Here's your bullseye.
That's beautiful.
Hit me here.
Right. Because they say that when we go before God the Father, if He recognizes Jesus in us,
Right.
that becomes, oh, welcome home.
God's going to look at us all. He's going to say, "Do I see anything of me in you?"
Right.
I don't see me in you. Did you ever think of me?
Right.
Did you ever think of me?
Right. You're right.
But that's what the divine indwelling does: is you never stop thinking about it, even when you don't think you're not thinking about it.
Right.
Because it's all in the decision making format, your formula or your algorithm, as they may say today. When you have that in there, you don't get away from it.
Right.
That's how Mary was with her since
Continuous.
beginning.
Right.
It never left her. It always was.
Right.
And so she didn't need. She got instruction at temple like all the other girls did, and all like that. But she wasn't, reading this stuff. It was just in her. It was her nature.
It's amazing.
She says, "As you will."
It's a deeper look.
But I'm going to be his mother.
Unbelievable.
She made her deal.
Yeah.
But that was one thing I didn't do. I didn't make a deal.
You didn't?
Not like she did.
I think I'll fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah, I think, well, whatever. I didn't think that a deal was offered. But next time I'll try to get an agent. We'll think about that. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you coming up here. And sorry I was in a sour mood early starting off.
You don't know when you apologize.
There was just a lot of stuff that was going on. And I kind of started off on a bad foot with Alex today. But I think we recovered. So we got good stuff going on here, bud. So we'll keep going. We're going to go back to it. But as far as what we talked about today, I think as audience members, you need to go back and review the decline of nations, definitely on that. And what other things that we talked about?
A book on St. Joseph would be extremely...
I'm just thinking about our podcast that we'd done before. We'd had the one about St. Joseph. Need to go back and think about that, his relationship in this. But really, as far as the march towards the decline of nations is really important right now.
One of the things I'd like to do in our future podcast is to talk a little bit about the end times as seen through Maria Valtorta. And,
didn't Ann Emmerich have some stuff on that too?
Ann Emmerich had some stuff, and of course, Mystical City. So we'll be pulling out different things. We'll present them, and then we can discuss them and stuff. Because there's one section in here about where our Lord describes the Antichrist, but describes him from being in heaven and making of the Antichrist soul, and then what he degenerated into as he came into this life and fell. So, but it's good food for thought, but especially because we're in the final throes of this battle, and Islam wanting to take over and all these different things.
And people opening the door for them and not realizing what they're doing along the way.
Right. So we'll try to make, some food for thought, grabbing some of these ideas and things that Christ has tried to outline. Of course, we were spending more time with St. Joseph and talking about his life, Our Lady's life, and what they did. I mean, here's people, you talk about going to war, they go into Egypt, and these things are falling. I mean, they're not like going in with
all the idols and stuff.
They're not going in with
these
these bombs and stuff, right? But
they're just going with their presence. It's just their presence is bringing it. But this solemnity that they carried with them and the protection of the Holy Spirit was like, hey, they're walking on. The Holy Spirit's got big hips. I'll knock that one over. I'll knock that one over.
It has to do with the divine indwelling.
Right.
Right.
Because it was so strong. That was their shield. And that's what we need to develop in ourselves.
That will change.
In this day and age is what's going on. Work on this. Right. And that will help protect you from the other things. And for all my friends out there that I know are going through stuff, this is a deeply, deeply... season of attacks that are going on, spiritual attacks that are happening. And it's happening because of the foment of what's going on in the world around us. So stay strong, stay on those things. Remember who you are. Don't forget about that, and remember, we love you, and we'll be back.
Good man.
All right.